PSG just pulled off the most embarrassing choke job in football history. From winning the Champions League in devastating fashion to suffering a humiliating 3-0 defeat when it mattered most. From demolishing Inter Milan 5-0 in the Champions League final to being completely outplayed by Chelsea in the Club World Cup final. From having stars like Kvaratskhelia, Dembélé, and Doué to watching Cole Palmer run rings around your entire team. The European champions are out. The favorites have fallen. And it all happened at MetLife Stadium. PSG arrived in New York as the overwhelming favorites, and for good reason. They had just won the Champions League, destroying Inter Milan 5-0 in the final. They reached the Club World Cup final with a stunning dismantling of opponents, outscoring them 10-0 across their past 3 games. Their squad was loaded with talent. Ousmane Dembélé and Désire Doué as their sharpshooters, João Neves and Vitinha running the midfield like air traffic controllers, while Fabian Ruiz added steel. And then there's Khvicha Kvaratskhelia, the Georgian wizard who can dribble through a phone booth. This was PSG's moment. After years of Champions League heartbreak, they'd finally conquered Europe. Now they just needed to beat Chelsea, a team that had only won the Conference League, to complete the perfect season. What happened at MetLife Stadium was nothing short of a disaster. Cole Palmer and João Pedro led Chelsea to an incredible 3-0 demolition of European champions Paris Saint-Germain. Palmer made it 2-0 in the first half.
Exploiting that space again. Now what a trick from Palmer! Superb!
Who belonged on the biggest stage, while PSG's superstars looked lost and confused. But this wasn't just a bad performance. This was a complete systematic failure. The match was even marred by a post-match on-field brawl involving PSG coach Luis Enrique, goalkeeper Gianluigi Donnarumma, defender Achraf Hakimi, and Chelsea forward João Pedro. Let's talk about this PSG team. On paper, they had everything. Khvicha Kvaratskhelia had scored his first PSG goal and was in fine form, while Ousmane Dembélé was bagging braces. Désire Doué had lit up the Champions League final with a phenomenal performance, firing PSG to that 5-0 win against Inter. But here's the problem with super teams. Sometimes the sum is less than its parts. PSG had assembled a collection of brilliant individual players, but they failed to function as a cohesive unit when it mattered most. Luis Enrique had called them a team of stars seeking the icing on the cake for their incredible season. Instead, they got a reality check that exposed every flaw in their approach. Chelsea's tactical approach was masterful. While PSG were trying to rely on individual brilliance from players like Kvaratskhelia and Dembélé, Chelsea played as a perfectly orchestrated unit. Their pressing was coordinated, their movement was fluid, and they exploited every weakness in PSG's system. The problem for PSG was clear. They had too many players wanting to be the main man. Kvaratskhelia, Dembélé, and Doué are all exceptional talents, but they all like to operate in similar spaces. When you have that many creative players trying to occupy the same areas, you end up with confusion rather than fluidity. Chelsea, on the other hand, had clear roles for everyone. Palmer knew exactly where to be, when to press, and how to exploit the spaces PSG's star-heavy system inevitably left behind. PSG came into this tournament as European champions, having just demolished Inter Milan in the Champions League final. Everyone expected them to complete the double. But sometimes that weight of expectation can be crushing. You could see it in PSG's bodies and having a great team. PSG had the individual talent, Kvaratskelia's dribbling, Dembélé's pace, Doué's finishing ability. But they couldn't combine these talents into something greater than the sum of their parts. PSG had won their last 5 knockout matches in all competitions by an aggregate score of 18-0, but all of that meant nothing when they couldn't function as a team under pressure. Chelsea showed that with the right system, the right mentality, and the right team chemistry, you can overcome any opponent, no matter how much talent they have on paper. So what exactly went wrong for PSG? It wasn't just one thing. It was a combination of factors that came together to create the perfect storm. The pressure of being favorites, the lack of tactical cohesion, the over-reliance on individual brilliance, and perhaps most importantly, the failure to adapt when their original plan wasn't working. Luis Enrique's team of stars became a cautionary tale about the dangers of assembling talent without considering how that talent fits together. Football is still a team sport, and no amount of individual brilliance can overcome poor team chemistry and tactical confusion. PSG's failure in the Club World Cup final wasn't just a disappointing result. It was a reminder that in football, the team that works hardest and plays smartest will always have a chance against the team that relies solely on individual talent. Chelsea are Club World Cup champions after beating Paris Saint-Germain 3-0, and they did it by playing as a team while PSG played as a collection of individuals. The lesson here is clear. You can have all the stars in the world, but if they don't shine together, you'll always be vulnerable to a team that does. What do you think went wrong for PSG? Was it the pressure, the tactics, or something else? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more football analysis.